What is up, my dudes? Paul Chin here, and I am back with your questions. Just to recap, if you missed it, I'm a producer, DJ, music maker, and I have a new EP coming. It is called Professional, and it will be out in a few months, but the state of music media right now had me a little concerned that I would not really be able to talk about it. I wouldn't have anybody to ask me questions, to interview me, to share the music, to, allow me to get into the really interesting things that lead me to make music. I decided that I wasn't going to let that stop me from being able to share with the people who are interested. And so I asked you for your questions. This offer still remains right now. If you want to hear my EP early, it's not ready for release. There's still a lot of stuff that I got to get done. But if you do want to hear the music early, the music is done. So if you send me a DM on Instagram or on Blue Sky, or if you send an email to the Sanzu Group email address, which will be linked in the description, I will send you a link to listen to music. And the only thing that you have to provide me in return is 3 questions about the music. Whatever really inspires you to want to know more, ask away. And then I'll answer it in a video like this. So let's get to it. I have picked a few of these questions. I've tried to categorize all of your questions with things that are relatively in the same genre of inquiry. And so we're going to get into these. I'll make a couple videos. We'll get through as many of these questions as we can up until the music comes out. So this first question comes from Dra, my friend Jenny. Thank you, Jenny. Are those your vocals throughout the tracks that's been modified or others sampled for it? Normally, I feel a little weird about plugging tools that I use just because, I don't know, that's just not really the space that I want to occupy. But because I am a Yamaha artist, they have given me instruments and things to use. They've actively contributed to making my music making and my career better. So I feel very good about talking about this. Every voice that you hear on this project is me, but some of the voices sound different. And the reason for that, in addition to lots of really great mixing, some techniques that I've been trying out, also some really great mixing by Frieza, my engineer. I also use a tool called Vocalo. Some of you may be familiar with Vocaloids, most famous of which is probably Hatsune Miku. It's a tool created by Yamaha ages and ages and ages ago for basically being able to generate synthesized vocals. But there's also now a, companion plugin called Vocalo, which actually allows you, a person who records your voice and sings into your session files, to then be able to use your performance, your vocal performance, so all your inflections and everything, and run it through a Vocaloid vocal synth voice. Some of the Vocaloids who are assisting me as me are Sakura, Shion. I think there was a third one that I might have used as well, just for backing vocals and things. But yeah, so right at the very beginning of Tao of Palm, that intro voice singing, it is me, but it's also not me. This one comes from Dark Aries Knight. Thank you, Dark Aries Knight. The sound font is very Mario 64 Dire Dire Docks. Was that intentional / did the game inspire part of the song? Actually, no. I never owned a Nintendo 64. I have played Mario 64, not that much of it. I hadn't heard the BGM for Dire Dire Docks before just now when I was preparing this question. Yeah, it is very similar. And I wasn't specifically thinking about Dire Dire Docks, but I was thinking about video game water level. So, there it is. I was a Sega kid. All right, this one comes from Dark Aries Knight. The final track is also called Serpentine, but in a way the EP itself is also Serpentine, with how the songs change vibes throughout the EP. Was that on purpose to tie it all together? Yes and no. So the long and short of it is there's actually a second part. There's actually a second chapter that follows Professional. I don't want to talk about it too much, but The reason there's a second chapter is actually because this wasn't supposed to be an EP. It wasn't supposed to be 2 EPs. The original plan was to make one full-length album. There's a bunch more songs that I've written about this exploration of friendships and friendship breakups. And a bunch of boring, bureaucratic, financial stuff ended up being the reason why I decided to break up the project into 2 EPs. So the sequence that I've worked with in my head around this music for the overwhelming majority of time that I've been sitting with it was actually not necessarily the way that it is right now. For example, on the full-length album version that only really lives in my head, Serpentine was actually before Tao of Palm and Way of the Fist, which are obviously always next to each other in that order. But when I started thinking about how I was going to split these songs up and divide them up between the 2 sides, I really wanted to start thinking about them even more thematically. And it just felt like Tao of Palm, Way of the Fist, and Serpentine fit together better than other combinations of music. Yeah, they sound really good. They flow really well together. I felt really good about that sequencing. And yeah, just in reviewing the mixes, I would play them in order all the time just to make sure that the pace of everything, the overall broad tempo of the listening experience felt good. But there was also the thematic element of it as well, right? Like I wanted to put songs together that felt like they encapsulated my thoughts, my feelings on friendship breakups as a person who experienced a bunch of them, but also speaking to people who might also be experiencing them and know what that feeling is like. So yeah, the EP does kind of move around, but I think it's just because, a lot of the thoughts and feelings in my brain were moving around. And that's just really true and honest to this chapter of the music of this project. And finally, we have a question from Azza Zuj. Thank you, Azza. What did you find was the most difficult part of this project? I think there were a lot of things difficult about this project. I don't know if there's a most difficult, because I think this as a whole is the most difficult project that I have made. So I'll talk about a few of the things that I personally found challenging. One, putting this much of my voice on record. I don't love being a vocalist. I can do it, and I think I've done a good job here because I worked really hard to do it. But I also know, I personally know and I'm friends with people who are very good at this. And that's why historically I work with people who are better than me at singing, at rapping, whatever. So that was hard to do, just technically speaking, but also just emotionally, like getting myself to a place where I was gonna, commit to the idea of like, I gotta record so many takes. I have to I have to review and mix my vocals and just be, inundated with hearing myself on tape all the time. It was the right thing to do for this project. I don't know that I would have felt great about making a project based on my learnings, my takeaways from personal experiences, personal stories, personal growth and development in trying to come out on the other side, and had anybody else speaking for me. It just felt like, yeah, if you are really an artist who is about what you make music about, which I am, then it has to be you. There's just not another option. So that was tough. I think another thing that was tough was actually just the music that I wanted to make. I always set out to really push myself and play in spaces of music that I genuinely love, like just as a fan of music and as a listener. So I wanted to use a bunch of sounds and styles and things that I am familiar with, and other things that I haven't really made that much of, or not that much of that I've shared. And I wanted to bring them together as usual. But I think, again, at the time that I was working on this, the music that was calling to me was all stuff that doesn't really live that much in my existing catalog. It's not stuff that like is a slam dunk for me to make. And so yeah, there was just like a lot of time really getting into the tracks that I was working on and then going back and listening to other stuff and like references and influences and studying what's like going on musically to make sure that I was like, am I missing something? Does it feel like it belongs in like the canon of this like musical tradition or style, or does it feel like I'm just trying to make a pastiche or an imitation of drum and bass, for example, or jungle, for example? So yeah, there was a lot of figuring out how much of that like I could really accomplish or pull off at my personal skill level. And yeah, that led to a lot of growth. This is some of the best music I've ever made. I think that I'm a better producer, but also like a better listener for having had to ask the questions and solve the problems of like how to make these tracks and how to make them work together. So that was also really challenging, but again, like a lot of fun. It's my favorite part of making anything is the learning and growing and just becoming a better read or better informed student of music. So yeah, two really tough things. Yeah, all right, well, that's all for now. I have plenty more questions. I will be making more of these videos answering more of your questions. Please keep them coming. If you would like to hear Professional before it's out and ask me questions about the music that you hear, find me on Instagram at OhYeahPaulChin, or you can follow me on Blue Sky at paulch.in. You can send me an email. You can leave a comment on this video. Please like and subscribe, do all of that stuff. You can follow me on Bandcamp because that's really going to be the place where my music is most importantly supported. It really helps because this streaming thing does not pay nearly enough, and I'm already several $1,000s in the hole on this project. So yeah, please support, share with your friends. We'll talk again soon.